Hi guys, good day. Welcome to our first class for Contemporary World. Today we will cover this following topics. Hopefully we can cover all of these subjects today. First, we would understand the meaning and definition of globalization. Second, we would differentiate the competing conceptions of globalization. Next, we would identify the underlying philosophies and understanding of globalization. And then next, we would differentiate the interdisciplinary understanding of globalization. And then next, we would understand what neoliberalism is. First, we would start on the definition of globalization. So, what is globalization? According to Philip Kotak, it is the accelerating interdependence of nations. So, meaning nations communicate with each other, nations connect with each other, and they are dependent. They rely on each other, so that they would be more advanced economically, and of course they would be much more advanced technologically. So you have the mass media side, you have the transportation system side, so that they would be better as a nation. Next definition that we have is it is a process of interaction and integration between people, companies, and government. So it's not enough just to talk with each other. So they also need to mix their best practices. So they need to get the best of out of a culture and a government so that they can apply it to their own culture. Last, it is a process by which capitalism expands across the globe as powerful economic actors seek profit in global markets and impose their rules everywhere. Globalization has two sides. It has the cultural side and it has the economic side. So mostly we would discuss the economic side of things, and capitalism is the economic side of globalization. So you have rich people, you have businessmen mostly running the economic side of the country, meaning the government doesn't have full authority on running the economy, and it is heavily reliant on these people, these businessmen. Forces of globalization. Forces of globalization are the manifestations and the characteristic of globalization. International commerce means one country can do business with another country. Travel and tourism in the Philippines is one of our main source of income. We encourage foreigners to go here and maybe stay here, be either for business or for leisure. Media is another force in globalization because it spreads information, it spreads facts, spreads news to other side of the globe. Various high-tech information plays a major force in globalization because you can be connected to anyone, anywhere, as long as you have internet connection and as long as you have this technologies, this high-tech stuffs. You can connect with different people, different timelines, different parts of the world. The emergence of globalization actually started in 16th century Europe, so it was a very long time ago. Although the term globalization was not used by then, but the practice was already taking place. They were already doing it, globalization, because countries from Europe were spreading out and expanding their territory and their power. And then in the 19th century, so intense globalization happened. So millions of us migrated from one place to another seeking for better opportunities. And of course, countries exchanging services and products with other countries. And then organizations came to govern international conduct as well. And then on the 20th century, it is a significant period of globalization because of World War II. Because after that war, the world was taken back to zeros. Everything was reduced to rubble. So they have to start again all over. And then there were some rules and regulations that were a learning curve for them, meaning the lessons that happened during the World War II, so that it would not happen again, so that it would be prevented. So they applied it to the new type of government and the world system. For our next topic, so these are the competing concepts of globalization. So these are globalizations, the ideas and opportunities of globalization according to different groups of people. So different groups of people, different countries have different ideologies. So iba-iba yung naiisip nila according sa pagkaka-interpret nila sa globalization. And then kung ano yung mga opportunities na pwedeng mag-arise dito sa globalization. So first, to a Korean Pentecostal missionary. So they go abroad. They have new opportunity to spread faith and then convert lost souls on different countries. So yun ang kanilang idea of what globalization or the opportunity of globalization is. So they can capitalize on that. For someone in the Dominican Republic, a Dominican immigrant in the US, so siguro similar din naman sa Pilipinas, they establish new roots because they migrate there and then they try to be citizens of the United States. And then while staying there, they involve themselves in home villages. So meaning they do not lose their culture. They still practice the same as if they were in their home country. So yan, mga Filipinos naman, ganun din. So opportunities naman for Indian television viewers or the makers of shows in India. So it's a chance for them for new influences and new kind of television. So they adopt that and then they apply it to their own kind of television shows. Yeah. In China, they have lots of factories there making garments. So it's a chance for a factory worker that works on garments to escape rural poverty, because there you have really no chance because you're so many. The labor force is so cheap because people offer it much more than the others. So they have the biggest population. So they have a good workforce to offer. So but it pays cheap on there. The labor is very cheap, which is, if you're gonna compare it, if they are going to go overseas, they're gonna travel to different places, they would have siguro 3 times, 10 times what they're earning today. Yeah. So according naman to an American shoe company, it means managing a far-flung supply chain to get products to stores. So meaning you're branching out. So branching out means more profit for, and not just an American company, but for any company. As soon as you expand your profit. According to a Filipino global justice advocate, so this means more fair rules between the rich north and the poor south. So the term first world, second world, and third world were used before to describe different status of countries. But right now, it's not really being used. So they are using now the global north or the rich north, and then the poor south or the global south. All right. So next, we have the theories of globalization. We would discuss 3 theories of globalization. First that we would discuss is the world systems theory. So it was developed by Emanuel Wallerstein, and according to him, there is a certain system that runs the world. He divided the world into 3 categories. So we have 4 countries, we have the periphery and the semi-periphery areas. And then what happens is the core countries dominate and exploit peripheral countries. So they are the polar opposite. So the core are the rich, the core countries are the rich countries, and then the peripheral countries are the poor countries. Core countries, they have the money, they have the resources, they have the power to pay for anything. The peripheral countries only have natural resources and labor force to their power, and they cannot really run their own business. That's why they are dependent on the core countries. We also have countries that are somewhere in between, the semi-peripheral countries. So both they have the characteristic of both peripheral and core countries. For example, yung production ng silver. So we don't have really all the capabilities to refine silver. As in, meron tayo sa lupa, we can dig it up. So we have labor force, we have the resources, it's in our land, nasa Pilipinas yon. Pero pag hinukay natin siya, hindi pa naman siya silver agad-agad. So it needs to undergo process. Hindi nila tinuro sa atin yon at hindi rin siguro nila ituturo sa atin. So, ang tendency natin, once we mine that, we ship it out to other countries and then bebenta sa atin. Triple na yung presyo. So, ganun na nangyayari sa pamamalakad ng poor countries. Mostly, they exploit peripheral countries na wala masyadong capability to handle their own resources. Yung semi-peripheral naman, so they are in between. So, they don't have that much power and resources in terms of money. But they are above the peripheral countries. They also have to battle the core countries kasi yung core countries, yung mga major businesses, sila yung may hawak nun. And then, of course, if you're a semi-peripheral country, you want to also run your own business for own stability at saka sustainability. So, may chance pa rin na mag-clash yung core countries. Sabihin niya, maliit ka lang naman na player, so you don't have a place here. So, yun. So, the semi-peripheral countries also needs to protect themselves from that. Next naman is the world polity theory. So, this means that there is a certain system of government in terms of politics that can be applied all throughout the world. So before, it was developed mainly as an analytical frame for interpreting global relations, structures, and practices. So yung mga nangyayari all throughout the globe, dinidescribe lang siya before as world polity. And then before, it was not a theory that there's something that is common to all of us. And then they transformed it now to a theory. So this views that the world system as a social system with a cultural framework called world polity. So in order for us to be much more progressive, dapat daw magkaroon tayo ng world politics or world government. So yan, views the primary component of world society as world polity. So they consider other actors such as the state, institution to be under the influence of global norms. So yan yung mga government halimbawa ng Philippines, government ng other Southeast Asian nations, so they are under global norm or isang global na mindset. Ang world culture theory naman, it recognizes world culture. So we have different cultures and we have and every culture is important. So globalization is a process of relativization. So meaning you can relate with each other and then you respect them and you don't impose that your culture is better than the other. So everyone is just on one plane, on one level. Okay? Societies must make sense of themselves in relation to a larger system of society. So you always have to understand that you are always a part of a whole. So you're not the whole, not the whole world revolves around you. You're not better than the others. You're just part of something big. So world society is governed not by a particular set of values. So meaning, yun nga, contrary to dun sa una na mga dalawang examples, there's no one in charge of globalization. Globalization and expanding market. So this is more of the manifestations and then the characteristics and some good effects of globalization. So the pursuit of economic opportunity has long sent merchants around the globe. Maybe it's a good thing about that they seek opportunities and success outside of your own country or your own place. And I think that's one of the best way to really gauge if you have, if you're good, you have to compare yourselves with others that are doing good as well. And then hopefully get their best practices and then apply it to yours. Powerful states have supported their profit-seeking activities. It has two things. It brings us easier services, better products, good products, better products, because they want to compete. Diba? Capitalism is like, it has never enough. Hindi sila masasatisfy talaga ever. So it just grows and grows and grows. So you can just imagine, yung mga wealthy businessmen, even in our country, parang nothing is enough to them. They always want to expand. They always want to be better. They always want to gain more. So yun naman ang expanding market. It's always expanding. And then last, economy may be the driving force in creating global change. So sa economic side at saka sa mga economists mag-isip, ang global change or development ng isang country ay nasa economic side niya. Its ability to do business with other countries or to be wealthy. These are some of the fears, let's just say bad side siguro of globalization. So let's just see if it's really good or it's really bad. But it definitely has some good effects and then some bad effects. So first question is, does globalization make the world homogeneous? So this would cater to the first two theories that were explained earlier. So yung world system theory and world polity. So pag homogeneous na yung mundo, ibig sabihin, isa na yung system natin. Isa na tayo, parang global people na tayo. We're not Filipinos, we're not Americans, we're not Chinese, we're not Australians. We just are, people of one globe. Yun yung homogeneous. There are more global institutions, global linkages, and global values means more people will have more in common. So, yeah. Paglabas mo ng bansa, everything would be the same. I don't know if it's good or it's bad. You can decide. Globalization is the work of Western states taking hold around the world. So yan, isang bad side nito is parang produkto lang siya ng mga Western developed countries. So yung mga advanced, yung mga mayayamang bansa sa kanluran, Western countries. Alam naman natin yan, di ba? They are more powerful than us, so there is a chance that they are manipulating us. Ano daw yung mga signs nun? By controlling information flow. So yan, yung mga news na nakakarating sa atin, they are already parang scripted, they are edited para mag-cater sa favor nila. So kung ano yung information lang na makukuha natin, limited, yun, sila yung nagde-decide. Ito lang pwede nyo makuha, hindi nyo pwede makuha lahat. So that's one side to it. And then, one kind of bureaucracy state that societies can legitimately adopt. Siguro one example is in the Philippines. America decided that it's best for us to have democracy without really studying the demographics of our country, our grassroots politics, the different indigenous groups of people, and then they just ratified it in the 1935 Constitution that democracy is the best for us. Absolute democracy is the best for you. Because that's what we are doing. Of course, there are a lot of things to consider. Democracy is good, but we need to reconsider it. And parang ano lang siya, in-apply sa atin, yan ang maganda para sa inyo. Without consulting us. We don't have proper representation. We don't have proper studies to back it up. So yun yung nangyayari. Kayo, do you know? Do you think democracy is good for us? Yes or no? Maybe. Next, globalization entails cultural imperialism. Cultural imperialism, parang mananakop ka ng bansa by just your culture. What is happening now to us, di ba? Parang sa BTS, K-pop wave na nangyayari sa atin. So, yan. Parang cultural imperialism. Nasasakop tayo na hindi natin alam. Kasi ginagawa naman nila yon, not in a violent way, not like before, di ba? Yung mga imperialist country talagang nananakop sila at gumagamit sila ng dahas. Ngayon, parang subtle, nasasakop na tayo. Cultural imperialism. And we adopt that. Diba? Not knowingly. Sometimes siguro we are losing our own culture because we think that this culture is better than ours. And then next, things became more similar around the world as globalization proceeds. So again, good thing, is it a bad thing na paglabas mo ng bansa, lahat magkakatulad na? So that's for you to decide. Okay? Sabi ko nga, may good side, may bad side. And then next is one World Trade Organization enforces one set of trade rules. Ito naman, again, yung mga powerful countries lang yung nakakapag-decide ng laws and rules and regulation on world commerce and doing business internationally. Because we are peripheral by definition, so we are on the global south, diba? So we don't have that much say in creating these rules and regulations because we are not a major player. So yung mga major players, they have the authority to impose this. And of course, some of those laws are heavily favorable to their side. So ito naman, medyo i-balance out natin So, hindi naman daw magiging homogeneous ang mundo dahil sa globalization. So, ano yung mga nakikita nila na mga evidences na hindi yun mangyayari? So, yeah, number one, general rules and models are interpreted in the light of local circumstances. So, meaning, may local circumstances, mag-a-adapt doon yung business or yung economic side ng isang business. For example, McDonald's, isang international company, a US company. Okay. Pero alam nila na pag pumunta sila ng China, pumunta sila ng Philippines because they are expanding. Diba? Hindi sila masyadong ng customer, makaka-attract because Chinese, Filipinos, and other countries have their own culture that they look up to and then they practice every day. So, isang ginawa nila is they adapt the menu. Yung sinaserve nilang pagkain is not the same on every place. Sa Pilipinas lang yata may rice mill ang McDonald's. Ayan. Alam ko sa China wala rin, and then of course sa US wala rin, and then of course yung mga serving, di ba? Yung mga flavors. May mga flavors na sa atin lang available. And then sa kanila may available din sa atin naman. So vice versa. So yun yung tingin ng mga experts na hindi homogeneous or hindi magiging harmful talaga sa culture ang globalization. So next is the growing similarity provokes reaction. So advocates from many cultures seek to protect their own heritage or assert their identity. So pag nagkakaroon ng clash between two cultures or different ideologies, yung mga pag-iisip natin. So, mas pinoprotektahan ng tao yung kanyang sarili, yung kinalakihan niya na culture. Hopefully, yun nga yung mangyayari. Okay. Next, cultural and political differences have themselves become globally valid. So, the notion that people, countries are entitled to their particular distinctive in itself part of the global culture. So, yun, siguro nagpo-promote siya ng individuality, democracy, and then a chance to exhibit or ipakita sa mundo yung iyong sariling kultura and distinctiveness. Pakita mo yung identity mo. There are more definitions or more signs that we are not being homogeneous or hindi tayo nagiging talagang as in one lang at talagang may effect ang one country to another. So ito ay mga parang balita, mga news na research ko all throughout na parang posible siyang maging manifestation or signs na ang globalization is not really harmful to one's culture. Then finally, is it harmful or not? So yan. Is it harmful for countries that are nasa peripheral? Siguro, but it would not be harmful for those who are on the core countries or nasa global north. Hindi sila masyadong maapektuhan. And of course, they can capitalize because they have so many businesses to offer the world. Sa atin, medyo takot tayo. So, we are bound to exacerbate inequality by creating winners and losers. So, yung mayaman, yung north, mas lalong yayaman. And then, there's a chance na yung nasa periphery o nasa laylaya na tinatawag ay mananatili doon. Yung semi-periphery yun, siguro may chance silang mag-progress, but as it is a possibility, but it's very far from happening, because of a lot of factors. Loss of local autonomy, so people would be vulnerable to first economic swings. So pag nagkaroon ng economic swing, wala tayong magagawa doon. For example, pumalo yung presyo ng langis, wala tayong magagawa, di ba? Susunod, bibili lang tayo because we're not a producer of that. We don't have that much capability. Diba? Yeah, environmental degradation, so yan nga yung mga mining and then other forms of exploitation sa nature really happens because of advanced na rin tayo, may mga technology tayo, and it's easy from going from one place to another. And then epidemics, yan. Naranas natin yan ngayon. Hindi naman kakalat ang epidemic kung walang globalization, ang COVID-19, di ba? Kasi nga advanced na tayo sa travel, So it's easy to go from one place to another. So we have planes na that can go from one country to another, mga 30 to 45 minutes lang. So it's easy to roam around and spread the virus. So yun ang nangyayari, kaya kumalat din ng COVID-19 sa mundo natin because of the transportation. Next is the interdisciplinary understanding of globalization. So we have 4 views from different sectors of social science. The first is the political science side. So ito yung parang mga organizations na nagpo-promote ng world polity or world politics. Kaya nga lang, wala isa talagang nag-head or wala isang pinaka-leader country. So everyone has a say. For example, in Europe, they have the European Union. So mga countries in Europe, so they have a certain agreement with each other. And then, of course, sa atin, sa side natin, yung ASEAN. So yung ASEAN ay Association of Southeast Asian Nations na para mas mapadali yung business with each other. So they have talks na baka pwedeng bawasan na natin yung tax, ganyan. So mas madali nang mag-establish ng business, baka eliminate natin yung permit na ganito. So that it would be much more easier for us to trade. Pag ako nagbenta sa'yo ng halimbawa goods namin, mas mababa yung presyo kasi may agreement tayo. It would be beneficial for us. Produce kami, bibilin nyo, and then iikot yung pera natin. Okay? And later, mas malalaman nyo kung bakit kailangan umikot yung pera ng bansa. And then we have different mga monetary help organizations or mga funds na nagpapautang, ay yung mga banks na nagpapautang, organizations na nagpapautang. So we have the IMF, the World Bank, and then of course the World Trade Organization in charge sa business and commerce, and then several NGOs or mga non-government organizations na nakakatulong din sa political system ng mundo. Yan, from the economist side. So ito naman yung doing business. So integration through international trade of commerce in goods and services. So yan, talagang ang view nila kasi ay kailangan natin makapitalize or kailangan nating masakyan tong trend ng globalization para maging mas progressive tayo as a nation. So yun yung mga positive effects niya kasi talagang pag nakapitalize natin or nasamantala natin yung trend ng globalization, may chance na, alam niyo yun, mapunta tayo sa semi-periphery man lang. Kahit hindi na sa core. Masyado malayo yung core eh. Kahit dun man lang. Makaangat lang tayo ng isa. Okay? So yan. So it means several opportunities for us. Direct measures of barriers like tariffs, transport costs, and trade. Pababa lahat yan. So ito yung mga production costs. Halimbawa, magbebenta ka ng isang product abroad, ito yung mga pwede mong kaharapin na fees. Tariffs, transport cost, volume, pwede yung maka-add kaya nagmamahal yung ibang produkto. So pag may mga agreement na like ASEAN, pwedeng bawasan na yung. So meaning, bababa yung presyo ng mga bilihin natin at services. So yeah, next it means direct investment and outsourcing services. So yan, interconnected yan, dalawang yan. Kasi foreign investment, ibig sabihin may pupunta dito. Foreign national, and then they would do business here. Foreign companies. Yan. Kasi pag outsourcing, ibig sabihin, dito na gagawin yung business nila. Kasi halimbawa sa Amerika, medyo mahal mag-maintain ng business. Mahal yung pasweldo sa tao. Mahal yung benefits. Mahal yung sa lupa. Mahal yung other services like electricity, internet. So, mas mura pag dinala mo dito. So, mas mura yung production cost mo, mas madami kang profit. Mas maliit yung mas maliit yung puhunan. Mas malaki tubo. Same services naman. Okay? So, sa atin, meron din tayong opportunity for our OFWs, yung mga labor force natin, to seek opportunities somewhere else. So, better opportunities for work. So yan, sadly nga lang yung magagaling natin ay umalis. But they bring back monetary funds, mga different different denominations na, ayun nga, as we go along, makikita nyo kung bakit importante yung umiikot or nagsisirculate yung pera natin sa ibang bansa and then pera ng ibang bansa sa atin. Okay? And then, from an economist side also, it expands our choices. So yan, dati ano lang tayo, mangga at saka bananas. So ngayon, pwede na tayo mag-Coke, Hershey. So hindi yun yung mga usual na offered sa ano natin. So ngayon, marami na tayong choice, marami tayong pamimili. At minsan, mas masarap, minsan, mas okay, mas better yung services. Diba? So hindi na tayo limited sa ilang choices lang on our country pag nagkaroon ng globalization, sabi ng economist. So, sa mga sociologists naman, so this is from a sociologist perspective na yun, medyo cultural. So yung economists kasi are more on business side. So it is the ongoing process that involves interconnected changes in cultural and social sphere. So magkakaroon talaga ng social and cultural change. Hopefully, ang makuha nating change, yung better change, yung mas magagandang practices, yung mas magagandang i-apply sa bansa natin kaysa sa mga negative na makukuha natin na cultural and social spheres or mga effects sa ating culture. So, yun. So, as a process involves ever-increasing integration of these aspects between nation, regions, communities, and even isolated places, yan, magkakaroon ng connection. Dati, hindi sila na re-reach ng civilization ngayon. Pwede na silang makipag-communicate. We can do business and then, we can exchange best practices. Yun naman ang maganda dun. Kunin natin yung best nila. Apply natin sa atin kung applicable. Yung mga hindi naman, huwag na nating i-observe. Okay? And the next, spread of diffusion, ideologies, ideas, values, beliefs. You can exchange your mindset. You can express your mindset. You can spread your mindset throughout the world. Yun, pag na-adapt nila yun, it's your credit. Diba? It's our chance to spread Filipino culture. Natuwa kaya sila pag nakatanggap sila ng Filipino culture? That's for us to find out. So yan. Fueled by globally integrated communication system, for example, social media, Twitter, and YouTube. So, may idea na tayo ngayon kung ano yung nangyayari sa labas ng bansa natin. Yun yung maganda. So, socially, hindi na tayo trapped within our own culture. May advantages din naman pag nakakita ka ng ibang perspective. And then, of course, the movements of people around the world by business or leisure. So, again, may mga iikot na tao and then hopefully dala nila yung kanilang kultura at mga ideologies, mga mindsets na kakaiba na baka posibleng maging applicable at maging mas maganda para sa atin. And then according to historians, globalization is not new. Sabi ko nga kanina, di ba? Since nung dumating dito si Magellan, 1521, signs na yon ng globalization. Kaya lang yung term is lately lang na coin, nagawa. But we have been practicing it for a very long time, since 16th century. So yan, ito yung mga other takes of globalization or mga signs of globalization throughout history. So yan, the collapse of the Cold War versus yung war between communism and capitalism. So may matagal na silang hidwaan pero wala naman violent na nangyayari kaya nga Cold War parang hindi lang sila nagpapansinan. Pero there is something, underlying beneath them. Talagang merong conflict between capitalist and communist. And tingin ko hindi na yan maayos kasi super opposite ng kanilang mindset. Capitalism is, again, economic side yan. And then communist is, yun, medyo socialist side siya. Pro-people, na hindi dapat in-exploit ang people. Sa capitalism kasi, there's a great chance that powerful people and then wealthy people might exploit others for profit talaga, for their own advancement. So, medyo wala nang compromise yan, but hopefully we can find out which is the better, or kung wala mang better, kung ano yung mas applicable talaga. Maaaring hindi nga yan dalawang yan applicable para sa atin, especially sa bansa natin. So again, these are signs of globalization across history. So next, our topic is understanding neoliberalism. Sabihin na natin na neoliberalism is somewhat synonymous or parang katulad ng capitalism because it's on the economic side of globalization. So yan, the theory of political economic practices that proposes that human well-being can be best advanced by liberating individual entrepreneurial freedoms and skills within an institutional framework characterized by private property rights, free market, and then free trade. Ito naman, hinihikayat naman ang lahat na parang maging business-minded or mag-partake or mag-participate sa economy. Kaya nga lang, alam naman natin na yung mga malalaking companies pa rin naman ang makikinabang. Diba? There are some, siguro, new players that can possibly be great someday. But at the end of the day, there are still major names in our country, especially mga major corporations that hinder yung progress ng mga small players. Yan. Characteristics of neoliberalism. So ito yung mga signs na may manifestation of neoliberalism. Limited ang government subsidy. Ibig sabihin yung mga services and products hindi masyadong pinapakailaman ng gobyerno. Tao yung bahalang gumastos para sa sarili niya. So pag may subsidy, pwedeng halimbawa 50% sasagutin ng government. And then the other 50, sagot na ng tao. So, mas okay. Kasi sa tax naman kunin yan. Parang binabalik lang. Okay, well, it makes reforms to tax law in order to expand tax base. So yan, yung mga kinukuhanan ng tax ay ine-expand nila para of course mag-work sa mga corporations na alam niyo, less tax sa kanila para mas mawili sila mag-business para mas may production sila. So, reduce deficit spending. I don't know if this is true, but idea natin is minsan nakakagastos tayo ng more than sa income natin. Nagkakaroon tayo ng utang. So, we as a country, sometimes we do that. Siguro most of the time, we tend to do that. Yon, malilimit daw yon kasi we would have number of funds, resources. Open market, so yan. Pag open market, yung limit protectionism and then open market is related to each other kasi yung protectionism, ibig sabihin marami kang rules and regulation to the point na yung ibang nations ayaw nang makipag-deal ng business sa'yo. Ayoko na. Masyado kang juicy. Dami mong hinihingi. Yan. Yung open market naman, nililimit or tinatanggal yung mga barriers na yan at para makahikayat ng investors. Alam mo yun, magkaroon ng open communication with other countries. So, removal of fixed exchange rate. So, yan, natanggal na yan. Yung fixed exchange rate, ang value ng pera natin, di ba? Nakikita nyo, nag-iiba-iba from time to time. It depends on our performance dun sa global market. So, meron yung stock market, di ba? So, depende sa performance natin dun, tumataas, minsan bumababa ang ating value ng pera. Next is bank deregulation. So, yan. So, it is frequently used in the financial sector to refer to the reduction of banking regulation. So, yung mga rules and regulations are being reduced para mas openly, siguro, for loan, for other rules na mag-a-apply sa economy para mas umikot yung pera. And then, privatization. So, we would discuss what privatization is on the next slide. So, privatization is the process of transferring an enterprise or industry from the public sector to the private sector. Ang example niyan sa Pilipinas, before ang Philippine Airlines, PLDT, Meralco, MWSS, yung in charge sa tubig natin, ay owned by the government. Government na may-ari. So, subsidize siya ng gobyerno. So, yung taxpayers' money pupunta sa gobyerno and then babayad niya sa services or magpo-provide siya ng services na ganito. So, yan. Pwedeng, halimbawa, sagot na niya yung kalahati. Tapos, di kalahati na lang ang airfare mo, yung bayad mo sa PLDT, sa Meralco, at sa tubig. Yan. Kaya nga lang, sabi nila ay hindi na daw kaya ng gobyerno before. Alam ko kay Cory ito nangyari. The time of Cory. Binenta niya ng binenta yung corporations na hawak ng gobyerno. Kasi nga daw it's too costly for the government to run this different services para sa mga tao. So, yun, binenta niya. Nangyari, nasa mga private businessman na siya. So sila na ngayon magde-decide kung ano yung presyo ng mga airfare, ng telepono, ng kuryente, and then ng tubig. Sila na yun. Kung ano yung post nila, sunod na lang tayo. Kasi privately owned na siya. Hindi na siya madidiktahan ng gobyerno. So we have two opposing views or perspective of globalization. So yung Neoliberalism, which practice laissez-faire, so ano din siya, connected din siya sa open market or free market. Tinatanggal niya yung mga barriers para makapag run ng isang business. Natanggal niya yon, yung mga tax, transportation cost, and all that. Tinatanggal niya yon para mas open, mas maka-attract ng business. So capitalist ang Neo-Liberalism. And then socialist naman ay dun nga sa medyo cultural side, at naniniwala siya na gobyerno dapat ang may hawak ng power in running the state or running the state economy. Kayo, tingin nyo, anong mas okay? Yung nasa privately owned, na sabi nila mas better daw kasi mas malaki yung pondo ng private na mga tao, so mas makakapagbigay siya ng better services, or yung socialist babalik lahat sa then subsidize, mas mura, diba? Kukunin sa taxpayers money. Pero baka daw hindi maging ganun kaganda, pulido yung services. Okay. The last topic that we would discuss is the manifestation of market globalism. Ito ay parang synonymous again to Neo-Liberalism. Ito yung manifestation, so parang mga magagandang claims o magagandang pangako ng economic side ng globalism. So first, the idea reflects the concept of globalization. So it seeks to endow globalization with free market norms and neo-liberal meaning. So yeah, mas talaga siya, mas advocate siya ng free market, na para wala masyadong hindrance, yung gobyerno hindi dapat masyadong nag-impose ng tax or hindi masyadong nakikialam. And then the 5 core claims of market globalism. So globalization is about liberalization and then global integration of market. And then globalization is inevitable and irreversible. Nobody is in charge of globalization. Globalization benefits everyone. And then globalization furthers democracy in the world. So that is our last topic. So yun, balikan ko lang yung ating learning goals or mga objective kanina na sinabi ko bago tayo magsimula. Yan. Hopefully we have covered all of them. Sana may natutunan kayo sa discussion na to, and then hopefully you can answer the short assessment that will follow after. So that's it for me for today. Good day to you guys. Bye.